Hello, welcome to our little show, which is called The Story Matters. We believe that every story matters, and so it is just nothing but delight to be able to share with each other. And so today, John and Nancy are going to share with us about an amazing event that took place in our neighborhood. Now, you should know, we are neighbors. Ann and I and John and Nancy live just right next door to each other. And so, but they had a very special weekend.
Yes.
And so I'm going to toss it to you.
Okay.
Tell us about it.
Okay. We had just a wonderful, wonderful celebration, family celebration, and it was a celebration of our 150 years on the planet. And so Nancy actually is the one that came up with the idea, and we have Nancy 70. She's so much more youthful, as you can see, and I'm the older of the couple. So we put 80 and 70 together and came up with 150, and just had a wonderful outing. We had well, I'll let you go on with the cook.
We decided to have a party mainly because we didn't want two parties, which 170, 180, we'd have to have two parties in 1 year. Let's just have one. And we came up with the idea. But then how to do it? Like, what does that mean, have a party? So we looked at renting a hall, and that just felt wrong. But what about our yard? I don't know. We live in a neighborhood. It might be noisy. What if it rains? And we did reserve a hall, and then we canceled. We're like, we didn't want to be inside. We were just going to hope the weather would be good and we can have it in our yard. So once we decided that, the rest of the pieces started coming together. The big one that was a bummer is we love our yard. We love to garden. We thought we'd have all summer long to get the perfect yard. All the flowers would be perfect. Everything was going to be gorgeous, and we had a rainy summer, and the flowers weren't all that beautiful, so it was a bit of a disappointment. It wasn't quite the showpiece we'd imagined, but we slowly started putting pieces together. We made an invitation, sent it out, and you can talk about some of the pieces that we put together.
Well, the invitation is interesting because a friend of mine, long-time friend of mine who now lives in Wilmington, North Carolina, said, "JB, what a wonderful invitation." And now Nancy will tell you a little about but it was a picture that we had taken when we were in Italy, which was earlier this year. And we were at that particular one, I think we were in Cinque Terre, and we had our family who was in Italy at the time, and that was our son-in-law, who was in the army in Vicenza, which is just right next to Venice. And then we had Eiley, our daughter, and the two children. So we had a wonderful time there, and somebody took the picture, and we were on a pretty good sized rock. So it was a wonderful shot. And so getting back to my friend Mike in Wilmington, when he got it, he said, "Oh, I've never seen anything like that. What a wonderful card." And other people called to tell us, "Oh, well, we can't be there, but it sounds like it's going to be a wonderful celebration." And some of them took it. They thought it was an ad for
Patagonia ad.
They thought it was a Patagonia ad. They always threw it out, and we took a look and said, "Oh, no." But anyway, so I'll let Nancy go on about the wonderful cooking that took place.
So so the invitations went out, and and mainly it was family because the yard and our neighborhood, because we couldn't get much bigger than that. So, and cousins and family members from all over the world came in, which was wonderful. We'll go back to that. So, okay, now we've committed to this. What are we going to do? So we had thought of maybe a food truck, but we looked at a few and they were either booked or really costly. And we went down in Middlebury on Thursday evenings. They have like a community event. And lo and behold, there was Alicia cooking yummy Mexican food, and we had some, and we said, do you cater? And she did. So she lives in Salisbury from Mexico, and she came over and cooked some wonderful food, cakes and Mexican food. And our neighbors lent us their canoe, which we loaded it up with ice and every manner of water and juice and beer and pear juice and all kinds of things that we had. So some of our neighborhood brought some juices to put in there to keep them cold in the canoe. And then at the very last minute, we said we've got to have music. Well, how are we going to find a DJ? Which was literally at that point 3 days before. And we had thought, oh, we could do it with our phone, but we turned it on and it wasn't loud enough. But luckily, we snooped around, found a DJ who played some nice kind of background music for a garden party. And then we had some games, and several people in our neighborhood, again, I keep going back to being in a neighborhood is so wonderful. Like one neighborhood brought over a yard game. Another neighbor lent us a yard game. So we had lots of yard games that were really the community coming together to help make a party. So that was all. And games are such a way to meet people you don't know before. You're tossing the cornhole game, and it certainly brought children together. Many of them cousins who don't see each other that often, suddenly playing and running around the yard, and it was a great event for us. Yeah.
Great.
We had somewhere between 85 and maybe 95 people, not all at one time, but people coming and going. But there was a good nucleus of 50 or 60 people who were there for pretty much the entire afternoon. So the weather was perfect, and Alicia made burritos, tacos,
enchiladas.
And Len, this is where you and I come together, because you have baked your famous lemon cake, which I've enjoyed. You're now down to number 2, because Alicia's lemon.
I don't mind that at all.
Well, I'm going to order a lemon cake for us.
Okay.
To share. It was but it was a wonderful time, and gave us an opportunity to spend a little more time with neighbors who we generally see when we're sitting on the front stoop or sitting in the garden. Good. So this really, gave us some really very meaningful time together.
Talk about the setting. What was this is a very special description of your event, but your setting is also very unique. And now you have planted trees, you have planted bushes, you have planted. What have you planted? I mean, it just. So describe your house and
well, we have been in the house 5 years ago last month, and we were told by a realtor friend of ours, Bonnie Gridley, a wonderful realtor who we thoroughly enjoy. She mentioned, well, actually Nancy saw it, and I guess called Bonnie, if I'm not mistaken, and Bonnie said, This is probably going to go this weekend, and so we were the second to see the house, and right away we agreed the price was fine, and so then we got, I think we moved in
August.
In August of
5 years ago.
5 years ago, and the house was wonderful, basically a ranch, but there hadn't been too much done to the outside yard, so we have done some pretty extensive gardening, like you said, by way of probably hundreds of bulbs and perennials and annuals, and it's a labor of love, and we it's it's what we like to do. We like to immerse ourselves in the yard, in the dirt, and
Where did that come from in your lives? I mean, who?
well, in my life, it began as a young boy on the island of Oahu in Hawaii, and the deal was my dad spent a lot of time, really enjoyed being out in the yard, and things that's basically the tropics. And we lived in Kailua Beach. And my dad worked for the government, so he would commute into Honolulu. And my job was to, before I could go to Little League practice, before I could do anything, we had an hour of weeding daily. That's what I did.
So you really are of the earth, right?
Of the earth, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was kind of, my start to it. And everything that grew out there was just so lush, and I just picture these huge hibiscus and all the different little crotons and the palm trees and coconuts and everything. So, and interestingly enough, Nancy was growing up in Panama, and I'll let her go from there with the lushness of the vegetation.
Yeah, so I did grow up in Panama. I never gardened there because we lived in the Panama Canal, where everything was perfectly, wonderfully groomed by the Panama Canal Company. But I think then I did appreciate garden and beauty. And when I really got into gardening, however, is when I was living in Austin, Texas, in a very small apartment, and I read a book. I don't remember the name of it, but it was something like Integral Urban landscaping and habitat. So I had a small urban garden in Austin. And then as a single mom in Middlebury for many, many years, I had huge gardens because it was food. It was like I had to grow it and put it by, and I had huge, huge gardens. Well, once the children were all raised, I just decided I was never growing any more food again. I could get that at the farmer's market. And I reverted at the co-op. I reverted to, and about then John and I met, and we agreed when we bought the house, we were never going to change the footprint. It was a plenty big enough house for us, but there was a blank slate of a garden that needed our imagination. And the thing we agreed on going into it was that we were going to learn as much as we can about local plants, native plantings, plants that were going to encourage bees and butterflies. We weren't going to put poison or non-organic pesticides, anything. So, and that was a bit of just like learning about that, because I used to go to the store and just say, oh, this is beautiful, let's put it in the yard. But being intentional about you can't do that, honey, that could be unsafe. Being intentional about caring for the earth. Something we're talking about, we would like to add maybe next summer, if somebody knows how we could do it, is we'd like to add bees, some beehives. We think that would, we now have the plantings, and we think that would be good to the neighborhood. We don't think anybody else in the neighborhood we just think it would be a nice thing to add. So we are thinking about that as the next thing we might do. This summer we did extend our gardens a little bit off the front. The excuse was the front stoop was not very safe. But as the process of building a better stoop, we now had to get a pretty path. And then we had to, of course, add some gardens around the path. So the stoop is now almost done. It needs rails. So, but we are pleased.
So where did you get the design for the stoop? I mean, where?
Well, that wasn't too involved, because we were going to keep the original stoop, but then we covered it with a kind of a composite material. And in fact, Andre Deering from right here in town did it, and he and a fellow worker did a beautiful job on it. It came out.
But years ago, another friend of ours showed us a picture of a little stoop that he thought would look good for us to use as an idea. So we gave that to Andre Deering and said, what do you think about this? Could you make it happen? And he did, and Patrick at Songbird Gardens. First of all, our friend Lily drew us a sketch of how it would look to have a path in a garden. And then Patrick at Songbird Gardens actually laid the beautiful path and set it all and installed it all. So it was, we went from little sketches and a little picture somebody thought would be a nice front stoop. So it came together. We're happy with how that is.
It's nice to have friends and neighbors and and local business people.
We that's one of the things that we've done ever since we've been in Middlebury is we always look for
first
local artisans, and so we've been and they are plentiful. So we're very blessed, in that sense.
So is there a name for a person or persons who work to create a yard like yours? Is there a title?
Well, it could be a landscape design. It could be somebody in the horticultural field. My thesis for my master's 100 years ago at UVM was on Frederick Law Olmsted. Very famous garden designer of
big thick book.
Yes, and he so that kind of piqued my interest, and so now we've he did the Fenway and so many other Stanford University grounds and a lot of different beautiful gardens. So that kind of piqued my interest. But we really enjoy, like right here at the Ilsley, finding that little area up in the library that has all the landscape and ideas. And so we've been helped, greatly.
We aren't designers,
No.
and we're not great at sketching things out. So I need pictures of it. And the lawn really kind of evolved. Like someone said, have you ever thought of putting a berm there? And we did put the berm, but then, what do we want on it? Well, all I could think of was playful, but I couldn't think what does playful look like on a berm. So moving plants around and figuring it out, and John's really good about that doesn't work there, I'll dig it up and we'll move it somewhere else. So there's always that going on.
A lot of digging.
Well, it's nice that you've had 5 years.
Yes.
And it's been enjoyable to be your neighbor for 5 years. We've been there 22 years now. So, and it's nice to see the creativity of our particular neighborhood. I mean, the house across the street has been an experience for everybody, and looking forward to that.
The completion, which we hope will be forthcoming.
I was thinking about this maybe this is a way to pull this to an end. I was thinking about the fact that you asked me at one point whether I still do marriages, and yes, I do marriages, and so I was delighted when you asked, and I was thinking about that day. It was a marvelous day. John and our daughter Jan did some shoveling, so we had a path.
Yes.
We had a path from the garage to where the lands come together.
Yes.
And I remember the sky was really beautiful, long, thin lines.
Yes.
And the dark, and then the orange.
Yes.
And so there we were out. It's the only snow wedding I've ever done. I have to say.
Well,
it was a solstice, and it was the middle of COVID, which is why we couldn't even be close to one another.
Right.
And we were on either side of the espalier apples, there was a fire, some candles, and again, I just keep coming back to being in a neighborhood. The neighbors are walking about wondering what in the heck is going on, but no one can really come ask because it's the middle of COVID.
Everybody wanders looking at what is going on in our neighborhood. There's probably more people coming to walk, to run, to ride their bicycle.
Exactly.
But I was thinking of what a beautiful setting that was for a marriage, and I'm thinking that here we are at a time when the earth is dormant.
Yes.
And the snow is not plentiful, but it was clear, and what great things could come.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've done it. So
well, thank you.
Congratulations,
yes.
neighbors.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thanks
really
for being
nice
such
a wonderful neighbor.
Wonderful neighbor. We feel.
Thanks. This is our story. This is their story.
Yes.
This is your story as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.